I'm Kara, and welcome to Soul Inspiring Business. I believe that all of us possess unique gifts and talents that allow us to serve the world and our own growth in the highest possible way. Our lives are an expression of our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And here, we will explore businesses, thought leaders, and topics designed to inspire, helping propel your own growth so you can live your best and most purposeful life. Welcome to Soul Inspiring Business. Welcome back to the Soul Inspiring Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kara, Chaffin Donofrio. And again, thank you for listening, and thank you for just being part of this awesome soul inspiring business community. It's been a real honor to be doing this, for quite a while now, and continue to get positive feedback that it's helping you all in some way, and that really keeps me going. So anyway, today we are going to be talking about purpose. This is a really interesting one because I think there's so much out there. I may have even said it on the show. It's about like, well, what's my purpose? How do I get aligned to my purpose? And in fact, and I'll share actually a really sad story with you. Just a few weeks ago, my uncle died. He died by suicide. And it was really shocking and extremely sad. And I'm still in the midst of processing it, quite frankly. But the reason that I share that is because it really brought to the forefront for me this idea of, he had retired and he had he was an incredible man, the patriarch of our family, the Rock, heart surgeon, had done 38,000 implants in his life between lung transplants, heart transplants. Incredible man who I was very close with or had really looked up to, especially in my childhood. And what was interesting to me as we think about, I think for him, and obviously we didn't know what he was really going through, but there was this idea that when he retired, he kind of lost his purpose. And interestingly to find out that actually surgeons are, I think, number 2 in terms of suicide. They rank by occupation, and surgeons rank very, very high, especially when they retire, because they're filled with so much purpose in their work, and that really guides their life. And then when they don't have that, they kind of don't know what to do. And sadly, I think that it makes me sad to think that he felt like he didn't have purpose because he had a purpose in our family. But this kind of prompted me into thinking into this episode, actually, really, because it's not just an isolated thing. There's so many people, I think, that fall in. I even, talk about it sometimes with my friends or, working parents or working moms that feel like, is this it? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, what's my purpose? Am I in the job I'm meant to be in? And there's all these questions that come into play when we talk about finding purpose, finding meaning. And I think so much of it is because, the human experience is a search for meaning in some way. We find meaning through our jobs and our careers. We find meaning in our role as mother, father, sister, daughter. We find meaning in friendships. And there's this, again, this kind of search for like my purpose. And what is that? As if it's this thing that once you find it, then everything's good, right? Like once I find my purpose, life will have meaning. And what I wanted to really think through today was this idea that actually, what if your purpose is really just to know thyself? What if your real purpose is actually about becoming, embodying the soul essence that you are. It's one of the reasons that we talked about on last week's show, this idea that authenticity carries this great is the greatest frequency. It's higher and more powerful than love. And so this is almost like a 2.0 version of that, because we're talking about um, really embodying the person you are meant to be in this world. And the maybe the purpose after all, is not a destination, but actually a homecoming. It's, how can I be the fullest expression of who I'm meant to be in the world? And so it's not necessarily, am I in my highest purpose? Because there's lots of different ways that I think you can use your gifts in the world. So I think sometimes when we tie a particular job or a particular career or a particular identity, something that our ego mind potentially identifies with, as in a role, um if our purpose is tied to that role or identity, then I think sometimes if that goes away, then what are we left with, right? And so it's this idea that, yes, for my uncle, his whole identity was constructed around this idea that he was this great saver of people. And he was. He saved so many lives. Um, but the real purpose, more than the surgeon identity, more than the father identity or the uncle identity or all those things, was really just to know thyself, to come fully into the expression of who you are in every single moment, so that you're not just this expression of love or giving or generosity when you're serving a role. You're in this embodiment of who you're meant to be in every aspect of your life. So I was, teaching to a group just the other week, and we were talking a little bit of this idea, which we had talked about in last week's show, which is, the three truths when operating in this new business paradigm. And I think this is part of that. It's, how do we come into full embodiment of who we're meant to be in the world? How do we get closer to the truth of that and really live out the highest expression of who we are? And again, it's not about being some way when we're at work, but it's being that way, the authentic version of you, all the way through in all you do. So you're not just, we talked last week about the idea of like making a difference, making an impact, and that's the goal. Like every day, your job is actually not as a real estate broker, um, not as a podcaster. Your job every day is to show up and make a difference and make an impact. And that's the idea of, how do I get closer to my own highest and best version? How do I show up in the world as like the best person I can possibly be in all moments? And so that means that when you're, you know, it's standing out in a line in the coffee shop, you are still showing up every day to make a difference. You're, opening the door for somebody that needs it. You're, um, you know, giving somebody a smile that just may need that in that moment, right? And you're just this living, breathing expression of someone who is showing up to make a difference. And I think that's what we're called to be, right? That's what our creator wants us to live out our gifts, because that's why we were given them. We were given the gift of, connection. We were given the gift of, we were given the gift of filling people and showing love to our fellow neighbor. We are, for some, it's not always me, they were gifted as a gifted mind in science. And so, again, that doesn't just mean that you do it that you use that mind in your work, but you're using it all the time to help others. And, you're just showing up in all the ways in the highest and natural expression of who you are. Because that's how we make a difference in our world. We make a difference in the neighbor that we meet, or um, the person behind you in line in the coffee shop, or the person that you are in relationship with in a business sense. How do you meet them where they are, and help them with their challenges and whatever they need, not from a sense of what can I get from this, but how can I create an awesome outcome for this person? And then the natural law of reciprocity in the world, if you've ever read The Go-Giver, which is a great book about giving, but it talks about this law of reciprocity, and the more that you give, the more you receive, because we weren't meant to hoard everything into one little place. We were meant to have these gifts and share them. That's our whole purpose. And so then the next question becomes, well, how do I know what the highest expression of me is? How do I know that I'm living out that? I think it's an evolution. I don't think that it's meant to be I get here and now I know all. I think it's a continual learning and growth opportunity and evolution of our soul that's always, and of course, you get a choice in that. You get to decide how much you want to continue to evolve and grow and learn. Sometimes the lessons come in hard times, and hopefully they come in more good times, and we learn how to listen to the nudges so that we don't have to have hard lessons. But I think, again, this idea that we are, that it's not a destination, that in every moment, in every day, there's an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, about others. And I think the more we can sort of operate also in objectivity, this is especially hard coming off the election period, where no matter what side of the fence you're on, there's people, judging and throwing names and name calling and all this craziness. And I think, we're called to just operate in objectivity. Like, somebody may not know what they don't know. And so you can try to approach it from love, approach it from an understanding, but we're not going to get anywhere by focusing on division and focusing on name calling. It's not going to get us anywhere. So how do we, again, step into, how do I know my purpose? Well, it's not a destination. It's a journey that's evolving at every moment. And I think the real question is approaching the day from a receptivity of saying, God, Creator, help me help me understand how I can become the highest expression of who you want me to be. And how can I be the highest version of who I'm meant to be? Show me the way. It's also just coming more fully into your own being, and being okay with letting people go that aren't meant to be in your world, and allowing people in that maybe new people that you're meant to meet. It's in this understanding that it's all a journey. And when you can take moments of gratitude for all that's unfolding for you, when you can step in and say, I'm open to receiving guidance on where I'm meant to be right now, but not from the understanding that, oh, once I get there, I'll feel better. I think that's the crux, and that can sort of be sometimes the hard thing to step into. But how can I actually be totally okay with who I am and where I am now, and grateful for where I am now, and also know that I'm on my way to continuing to become the highest version of who I'm meant to be and share that with the world. So, um, it's this idea of embodying your highest self. You've heard me say many times, probably this quote, if you've been with the show a while. It's one of my favorite ones by Marianne Williamson. And I can't remember the book I was reading, but it was one of those things, when you have you read something and it just sticks with you. And this was it. And she said, I am programmed, no more, no less, than to be the highest actualization of myself on this planet, to serve others and myself, and to serve my highest good, or for the highest good of myself and the highest good of others. That was it. And again, that always really stuck with me. This idea of being the highest actualization of yourself. And sometimes being that person and stepping into your fully authentic self means that some relationships might go away. And I would say if that's true, then maybe they weren't meant to be for the long term. Um, but and I also think I should point out, especially as we go into the holiday season, that I don't think that when you come into this place, I think the higher frequencies we resonate on, the more objectivity you have. So as you vibrate into higher and higher levels of who you're meant to be in the world, you're not necessarily going to look at somebody, for example, let's just say you have a totally different lifestyle or world or whatever with, your parents or your siblings. And so being around them can be quite triggering because they're just living a very different life than what you would create for yourself. Or maybe they're operating at a very different, energetic vibration, right? Um, but I think the higher that we get in our own actualization, the more loving we can become to those people. It doesn't mean that we're going to want them around us all the time, but I think we approach them differently, and you approach them with more compassion. Again, it doesn't mean that you're going to surround yourself with these people, but you can have compassion for where they are in a not in a non-judgmental place, because you know that they're just operating under the best that they can do for their life circumstances and where they are right now. And of course, they have a choice to be different. But if they choose not to, you're not going to judge them. You're going to love them through it. And loving them through it could mean them not being in your life for a time. And loving them through it could mean them being in your life all that time. And so, um, but again, I think that one of the things that's really interesting, and we look at David Hawkins did the map of consciousness, and he measured all these different states of being, such as, guilt or shame, which is one of the lower frequencies, anger, and then it kind of goes all the way up to love, and then enlightenment and, authenticity would be at the top of that scale. And so again, when we look at that, we see that we can actually be in conversation. We can be in relationship with people that are not necessarily like us, um, and have more compassion for them too. Um, so I hope this this whole episode was really to really look at how we define purpose for ourselves. How much emphasis are you putting on what's my purpose? And if it is a destination, then let's change that. Like, is that serving you right now? Is it serving you to think, oh, I have to be doing this, or this has to be my purpose? Or is it possible that really our whole lifetime, the only purpose that you really, really have is awareness, awareness of self, and coming into this idea that how can I operate as the highest expression of who I'm meant to be in the world and share with others to make a difference. That's the purpose. And it doesn't require a job as a surgeon or to be a mother of 4 or whatever it is. It doesn't require any of those titles. It requires you having your own awareness of who am I and who do I want to share with the world? What's the highest vibration frequency that I can operate on that helps others? And that's it. Pretty simple. And also, I know pretty hard for many, but I hope this helps you think of it differently and realize that, we're all on a journey and nobody has it all figured out. Well, maybe some people think they do, but I think there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of lessons, and we're all just doing our best. And so let's give grace to all those in the world as they're all operating on their own journeys and figuring it out too. All right, until next time, have a beautiful week. Loved being here with you today and would love to connect with you more over on Instagram. My handle is linked to the show notes, or you can just type in @Chaffin Donofrio. And I have something special for you as a free gift, my Dynamic Life Journal. This special book has the power to really help you live a soul-inspired life. Go to freegiftfromkara.com. Easy to remember, freegiftfromkara.com. Until next time, beautiful people, sending all my love.